Hey, what's up, guys? We're back. We have a brand new Chosen Company video. It's called the Last Man Standing Part 1. It's a 30-minute video. We'll probably break it up into two parts depending on how much I yap. A couple of things before we jump into it. Our Discord, you guys, definitely check out our Discord. We put all the uncensored, gory, nasty, heads getting blown off footage over there. That a lot of people like to see. I don't even enter that channel, to be honest with you, because it's too gnarly for me. But that's where that content is. A lot of people ask for. Also, the link to the description or the link to the Discord will be in the description, as well as the link to Azov's International Battalion. Azov's International Battalion is the battalion that I'm in. I was in the International Legion, but I've been in Azov for a while now, and gone on a combat deployment with them and done some solid work. So both links are in the description below. Let's check out Chosen Company. They're known for having some pretty insane missions, especially earlier on in this conflict, and being pretty damn effective. Oh, God, sorry, guys. I'm fucking huge still. I do this so much, man. This is Ryan O'Leary, team leader, first person who started Chosen Company. I reached out to him on Twitter. Probably he gets a lot of messages on Twitter, so he didn't reply to me. But if you know this guy, tell him to hit me up. I have a couple questions to ask him regarding some stuff that I can mention, but I know he's back in the States now, and he has left Ukraine. So people who have been hitting him up to join Chosen Company, I would like them to at least come apply with us at Azov, just because we have so much friendlier of a foreigner unit, foreigner friendly unit, right? Rather than like, for example, the Legion that I was in. This is different. This is the International Legion, but I believe they were in GUR, G-U-R, like the intelligence services, like the high speed version of the Legion.
Were basically the last, like they were the observation points at the very front. And behind that you had various Ukrainian positions, but the objective was to defend those and prevent the Russians from gaining a foothold further into the village, so that the Ukrainians further back at the village could fortify positions and then move manpower around. These two positions are maybe 150 meters further in front of the Ukrainian line. The stable part of the Ukrainian line at that point was about 150 meters west of where we were going to defend these positions from. It's over, nothing but rubble. All the houses are blown up at this point. There's nothing left in that village. Not a single house has one wall standing.
It's a cool intro, man.
We got the order that we needed to send 6 guys to occupy 2 positions within Pervo that were on the 0 line, because the guys that they had there were there for about 2 weeks without rotation. A few guys that we had remaining, we picked out 6, and we would be split up into 2 teams of 3 and occupy 2 positions. And we would infill together, but then move to our positions separately, just to create smaller target opportunities. Because at this point, the Russians have increased their nighttime capabilities with drones. and it was well known that they had thermal capable FPV drones as well as thermal dropper drones. And so we wanted to move in as small of a group as possible to get to these positions.
We get the guys in position. And this is one of the ops I think Khan talked about too. Khan's team was at Mechanic. The other team, which was in the north at Gypsy or Sugun, was another 3-man group of guys who were experienced as well. That one was Patrick, Horace, and Russell were in the northern one. In the southern position, it was Khan, Soresh, and Ethan.
Once we infilled, we met up with a guide that would take us to the forward positions. The infill was quiet. We had no problems with drones. We didn't have to run to these positions. We were able to walk at a fast pace. The first night, once we got there, was pretty quiet. We met with the Ukrainians that were occupying that position, and they did kind of a left seat, right seat, showed us their range card, gave us an understanding of the space around us, where the Russian positions were in front of us, where the friendly positions were to our flanks. And then once they were good to go, they left one Ukrainian that would stay there for one night with us, just to make sure everything went smoothly. And then the rest.
So this is pretty standard from my experience. You show up to a rendezvous position or location where a Ukrainian soldier typically will meet you, and he'll be your guide. He will lead you to. This was very common in the Legion. And this Ukrainian guide will lead you to the position that you are basically rotating them out of, right? And then they'll give you like he said, they'll give you a rundown. Hey, there's Russians here, here, and here. There's machine gun fire from this direction. Sometimes an RPG's fired from over here, blah, blah, blah.
So the group left. Throughout the night, it was relatively quiet. We would have the occasional drone, FPV dropper drones that would hit our position, but it wasn't too bad. We'd have sporadic AGS fire, mortars impact our position, but our position luckily was pretty well fortified, so it was able to absorb the impacts. But unfortunately, one of the impacts did hit our firing port that we had and partially collapsed it in. And so the single firing port that we had, we were barely able to get any visibility out of. We couldn't get our weapons out of it. And so we had to try and figure out, how were we going to fix it, because from inside, we couldn't apply enough pressure to lift the debris up and clear the firing port. During one of our stags, we got the call on the radio from Surge that there were approximately 6 Russians approaching our position.
The first contact went okay. We pushed it back and we held it. The second time that there was contact from the Russians had managed to infiltrate all the way up to the Sigan position or Gypsy. And a drone drop munition basically blew up the firing position that they had in that area. So what happened is Khan and his team down in the south position, so it was Khan, Soresh, and Ethan, they had to leave their bunker to basically defend the northern position from the advancing Russians. Soresh basically left the fortified position the first time, engaged the Russians with an RPG, hit 3 of them, 3 or 4.
Wow.
And then the other 4 were still, advancing. He ran back down into the bunker, grabbed his AK-47, and then basically went out with his rifle to start helping engage the rest of the Russians, while Khan was watching his viewpoint, because they still had a firing port they could use. So he's watching one. You had Soresh engaging, then you had Ethan moving between the 2.
From there, things were, I would say, normal, as you would expect. Eventually daylight came, there would be mortars, drones impacting our position, and we could also hear them hitting the other position that our other 3 guys were at. All was good until the early morning of the 3rd day, and we started getting calls that there was the threat of possible gas attacks. By the time daylight came, we had total loss of communications on both radios with the other team, and we had no idea what was going on. And
dude, comms is such a slept on skill set and important part of mission planning and mission success is communications. It's still mind-boggling to me, and I used to say this while we were on mission and we would lose comms occasionally. I would say, man, it's 2025. We're fighting killer robots, but we can't figure out how to fucking radio to our boys who are in the hole 500 meters away from us. Like it's so weird. But in the defense of communications, modern communications, the Russians do have a lot of different jamming techniques and ways to kind of scramble messaging and make it so we cannot communicate. Plus, if you're above ground, when you're in combat in Ukraine and you're above ground, you're 100% more in 100% more danger. You will always want to be underground if you can in a position like these guys are in. And when you're underground, what's really hard to do? Comms.
The call came over the radio that the Russians were commencing an assault on the other position. But we got the call that we had to provide fire support for the other group. And so again, myself and Soresh left our bunker. We did the same thing. We got on top of the position. And this time Soresh, he had the RPG with the HE rounds. And he was the most experienced with the RPG, which is why he was the one that was going to shoot it. And we were told that, you know, they were right in front of the other position and to fire the RPG right in front of our friendlies. Soresh fired the first round, and the call came over the radio that he practically hit one Russian practically dead on and dropped like 2 or 3 of them, and to fire another HE round in the same location. Soresh fired a second round, and it was a good hit from what I was told.
Oh, sorry.
You good?
Was hired.
I went back inside the bunker momentarily to talk to Ethan, to let him know that he had to maintain his position inside the bunker and provide overwatch from the firing port and monitor the radio. And when I came back out, a couple shots came and hit our position.
Oh no.
But they were close, but they missed.
Can you see them?
No. No, right.
Soresh tried to start getting back down.
Oh no.
And I started making my way back into the bunker. But just before I got in, Soresh got hit in the hip.
Oh, it gives me chills, man. That's what, as a combat medic, you don't want to get hit in the head. You don't want to see a casualty hit in the head and in the hip, man. The pelvis hip area is bad, and it's extremely painful. Fuck.
I cannot move.
Shit.
And but he was able to get to some cover. And so I was inside and I went to go for the radio. And I told Ethan that Soros had been hit and, you know, I wanted to relay it up. And I told Ethan that, you know, I need your help to get Soros. But as soon as Ethan stepped out, he took like one step outside of the bunker, and then he got hit.
Oh, fuck.
First shot, and it impacted him. He got hit in the chest, just barely missed his plate.
Oh, no.
He came back inside the bunker, and I told him to go to the cellar.
So this is very common for, for any infantryman really, but specifically for foreign fighters, because it's ingrained, it's drilled into us not to be caught by the Russians, because the Russians are not kind to their POWs, especially foreigners. So having a rifle and then a grenade to either help defend yourself from the possible infantry coming to capture you, or using it to eliminate yourself and hopefully some enemy infantry as well. This is common right here. But you can hear Ethan when he steps out of the bunker. He calls this guy Soros. He says, "Soros, oh fuck." Listen. Maybe we're too far ahead. FPV. Fuck. Oh no. Are they hitting him? No. Come on, buddy.
I don't know.
Shortly after that, Soros was able to work his way back inside of our position, and that's when he had told me, you know, that he was hit. And so from there, that's when the chaos really kind of started for me, because, you know, these two guys were my responsibility, and now I just had 2 casualties. And so I had to figure out, you know, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Come on.
I need help.
Get down.
Calling to this is Bravo, over.
Just pushing those low ahead.
For barricading inside while I treat the wounded, over.
Bravo, yo, slow down. Please repeat that last information.
Iran.
We are barricading inside while I treat the wounded. Over.
Copy that. Over and out.
We was eventually able to get Ethan back into this cellar underground, and then had to get Soresh down the ladder into the tunnel that went to the cellar, and drag him into the cellar. Ethan was non-coherent.
Shit.
Kind of, he was responsive, but didn't really seem, he didn't seem like he was all there. And so I told him, you know, check yourself, because he told me he thinks it hit the plate. And so it's like, well, check yourself, because I had to get Soresh and do a check on Soresh. But Ethan was struggling a bit, and then that's where the kind of bouncing around started, to where I had to check on Ethan, try to get an understanding of what his wounds were, go back, check Soresh, see what his wounds were. But then the dilemma I had is that I couldn't dedicate my time to treating them, because we still had a position that we had to defend, and we still didn't know what was going on with our flank where our friendlies were. So I had to do a check of what I could, run back up to the fighting position, observe if things seemed clear, come back down, and slowly start working on Ethan, who he ended up having a gunshot wound to the chest, and it barely missed his plate, but it went all the way through.
Okay.
That could be good.
White light, white light.
Come on.
Come on, try and get all the way in, guys. Try and get all the way in.
Come on.
Rush.
Yeah.
You gotta move.
Okay. I couldn't get to it. Can you help me, please? I'm not sure. I feel I'm not sure. Hi. Yeah, or hi. More hi. Yeah. More.
Are you good?
Thank you.
So once I was able to get initial first aid applied to both of them, that's where the bouncing back and forth started again, to where I would check them, make sure that they were still awake and kind of aware, and then go back up to the position, observe, make sure we weren't actively getting assaulted again, and then also give updates to the talk on the radio. Unfortunately, due to the nature of the battle space, it was known that if you get wounded during the day, your best bet is to, you have to essentially wait until nighttime. But unfortunately, wasn't sure how viable that was, because when all this occurred, it was still early in the day and there were still several hours of daylight left.
While that's going on, the guys in the North Trench are now engaging the enemy.
I've talked about this in a lot of. We'll just make this a long ass video, okay? Because this is very very interesting stuff. First of all, what a nightmare! You're on a 3-man team. 2 of your guys are injured. One is injured so bad he can't move his legs. The other one is starting to become incoherent. Oh fuck! Nightmare. But I've mentioned this multiple times. In the Legion, they would tell us, like, if you're gonna get injured, wait to get injured at night, right? And it was like a joke, but they would joke about this because you couldn't get evac, you couldn't get CAS evac during daylight hours because the drones would spot you, the mortars, the artillery, and they would just pound the shit out of you. It had to be at night, and this was before thermal drones were super prevalent, so you could still use that cover of dark. Now nighttime is just as bad as the daytime, if not worse, because of the night vision and thermal capabilities of the enemy. But
that has now pushed up to their position. And so that's just, you know, a shit show of a firefight. Their firing position was blown up. So you got the guys basically engaging them out on open ground. And what the Russians ended up doing on the northern side is they basically took gas canisters, chloropicrin, which is basically CS gas. They dropped CS gas into the bunker. The guys didn't have any gas masks or anything to defend against it. So they made the choice to pull out of the bunker. The minute they got topside, they got hit with FPVs and drone drop munitions. Russell, Horace, and Patrick all took injuries. They were able to get Patrick, who was severely injured, pulled back to a house, got him bandaged up, said, hey, wait, we'll come back for you. We're going to go grab more guys. Because at that time, they would not have been able to get him moved to the rear. At that point, we started moving our QRF guys further up to a position called Colleen. Colleen, we ended up having 4 guys there. I had to pull one of my guys, Serge. He had just gotten out of the field, but I had to get him back out there. So we went back out, got hit with drone drop munitions almost right away, but they made it to where they needed to go. So now I've got a team of 6 sitting back, and then I've got, 2 severely injured guys plus 1 healthy guy and mechanic. And then I've got 3 severely injured guys over at Sigan and Gypsy. I get Horace and Russell back to Colleen. Patrick at this point is still over in the house. And we try to draw up a plan on how to get him back, as well as trying to get our other 2 injured guys out from mechanic.
You get Colin. Colin.
You want me to call him? Khan!
Yeah.
Ethan needs you.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You guys need to talk to each other, but try and keep it down, okay? Okay?
Ethan. You hear me?
Or one of the times I went back down to check on Ethan and Soresh, you could see that his health and condition was starting to deteriorate. He was becoming more and more non-coherent, not aware of his surroundings, and less responsive. A couple hours go by, and I go back into the cellar, and Ethan is sitting up, but he's hunched over. And, I tell him, Ethan, get up, don't fall asleep. And that's when Soresh looked at me and he's like, I think he's dead. And so I went over to him and pulled back on his shoulder, and his head just fell back, and that's, he had blood coming out of his eyes and his nose. And so I checked for a pulse. He didn't have a pulse, and so at that moment it was, he had passed. And so I laid him on the bed that was inside the cellar and took his jacket, laid it over him, and went back to assessing Soresh, make sure he was still good. And then once he, things seemed good with him, I went back up and basically gave the update to the talk that changed status. One of our 300s is now 200, and just let them know so that they were aware. About an hour later, Soresh's health really started to deteriorate fast. He was complaining that, he was having a hard time breathing, and that his chest was in pain. And he started begging me for a decompression needle, and I had to tell him, like, I can't, man, you don't have a wound to your chest. And from there, I wasn't sure because I'm not a medic, but I was concerned that maybe somehow, his chest cavity was filling with blood, or his abdomen. I wasn't sure. And at that moment, I didn't know what to do. And then he started to dry heave and vomiting, and you could really see that things were getting real bad real quick for him. But unfortunately, it was still daylight, and there wasn't much the Ukrainians would be willing to or able to do, because you just couldn't move in the daylight. I called it up on the radio to let them know, hey, my second 300, he's dropping fast. He's in need of Gazovac soon. And they basically told me that, they're aware they're tracking, but they can't do anything because it's daylight. I felt helpless because there was nothing more I could do for him. I had done as much first aid as I could with the supplies that I had and training that I had. But I knew that there was nothing more I could do other than just try and comfort him with words. But I couldn't stay with him by his side because I still had a position that we were responsible for. And we had no idea if or when the Russians might try and assault our position again. I could hear Soresh's last moment, to where he was in pain, and then it was just silence. And so I went back to the cellar, and he was essentially leaned over onto the bed and non-responsive. And so I flipped him over, and same thing, checked his pulse. There was no pulse. And laid him down on the floor of the cellar. And then went back to the radio and let them know, hey, my second 300 is 200.
There was too much artillery fire to basically do anything for a few hours.
Oh my God, man. That is heavy shit. It's tough. In my head, I'm trying to think of what possible injuries Ethan and Soresh had and what kind of interventions could have saved them. But it's so hard, man. It's hard for somebody who is trained as a combat medic, such as myself, let alone somebody like Khan, who is not trained as a medic, man. That feeling has got to be so helpless. And I've heard this from other soldiers where they're really scared that their medic on their team will go down because they don't know they're not at the same level of medical skill, and they're genuinely terrified of this feeling of helplessness literally listening or watching one of their brothers die, and not being able to save them because they simply don't have the training, right? And that even if they did have the training, lots of times that you can't, you're not a god, right? You can't save everyone, but oh fuck, that's heavy.
So at that point, both the guys on the southern one have bled out and sadly passed away. So now I have one guy defending one position, and I have another guy severely injured in the north in a house that's currently under attack.
Once my two guys had passed, that's when we weren't really sure what the plan was as far as getting reinforcements or getting replacements. Whenever I would call and ask, they would tell me, you know, they're figuring it out, they're working on it, but essentially I had no idea what was going on. And so what I started to do was barricading the entrance to the bunker and started laying out claymores. I was just sitting there at the firing port, radio in one hand, claymore clacker in the other, AK at my feet. From there on, that was the most anxiety I had ever had, probably in my life, because I was at this position by myself. Had no idea what the status was of our other position. You know, were they able to fend off the Russian assault? Did their position get overrun? Had no idea. Once it got dark, some relief started to come that, you know, now it's, you know, darkness is here. That's when Ukrainians can start moving, you know, surely here soon, you know, I'll get some help.
Probably 4 or 5 hours later, we finally have, it's nighttime now, it's later on in the night, probably, I don't know, 9 p.m. at night, 2100. And so I make the call to get Khan back and try to bring the bodies of the fallen back.
Just before sunrise, Ryan came over the radio and told me, hey, on the hour, get ready to move back. Brigade's gonna move a sniper team to provide overwatch for you. Ryan gave me the go ahead, so I left the position, grabbed my bag, put it on, grabbed the end of the antenna that we had hanging, and just started walking west. The challenge at this point, though, was that, one, I had never been this far forward, and it's hard to make out any reference points off of key terrain features or structures, signs, just because they simply don't exist.
Yeah.
So I knew roughly how far I had to go to the next position, but I didn't recognize the other position coming from the direction that I was coming from. There's a dushka that the Russians had that was by a bridge or somewhere, and it just started shooting in my general direction. But I just did my best to try and stay as low as possible, stay behind what rubble piles I could and somewhat standing walls. But then I could hear a drone. But I couldn't tell, you know, because it's nighttime still, and I couldn't tell if it was a friendly drone or a Russian drone or what.
Yeah.
And so I grabbed my radio, called up to Ryan, and asked him, hey, this is a friendly drone that is above me right now. And then just as I finished that sentence, something, I don't know if it was a grenade or something, exploded 10 meters to my left. And that's when that fight or flight just kicked in and I just started running. A second explosion, but about 20 meters to my right, went off. And in front of me, I could see what was a wall and a hole in the wall. And I had no idea what building this was, if it was a position, but all I knew is that it was something, it was a hole in the wall, and that's what I was going for. dove in there, caught my breath, and after a couple minutes of just sitting there, it's like, just in case, you never know, maybe someone's in here. And so I just started yelling, Druzy, Druzy. And then I got a response. And it was just like, at that moment, I was like, yo, I made it to a position. So I got up, started crawling toward their voice, and then
Druzy is friendly, I believe. Friendly in Ukrainian.
that's when it dawned on me, I know this position. This is the position that I was trying to get to originally. So I got inside and got into the basement. And when I got inside, that's when I saw two of our guys that were in the other position that we were responsible for occupying. And at that moment, it was like, yo, you guys are alive. And so it was just, there's that sudden like influx of excitement and relief that, that the other guys had survived. But then that's when I ran into more of our guys that had come from base to relieve us, as well as some Ukrainians.
The end of the first part. Second part will be released in a week. Subscribe, turn on notifications to not miss it. Yeah, guys, check it out. I don't love promoting this channel because I don't want to see foreigners go here if I have any say about it. But you know what? Fuck that. Just watch. Come back to my channel when part 2 comes out. Okay. Nothing against these boys, but I don't want anybody having to deal with the same kind of issue. So, a couple things, man, I want to talk about here. First of all, holy shit, dude. We, especially recently, these past couple of weeks, we've watched some clips and some footage, some longer clips of some International Legion, some foreigner teams fighting, some of their combat, some of their skill sets, their experience. It's not great, to be honest, man. But these guys in Chosen Company are an outlier, for sure. And again, this is from my understanding and experience as far as Chosen goes. They had a lot of ex-military. They had a lot of veterans from the U.S. and the U.K. Or different European countries in general. And from my understanding, O'Leary is a pretty solid commander, and he would take care of his guys. So, but they were also willing to take the crazy ass missions too. So they trained really hard. From some of the other videos that we've watched, they would like reenact and rebuild some of the trenches or enemy positions that they were going to assault in the coming weeks. That's definitely a sign of good training, good command, good decent resources, shit like that. It's a situation like this one where Ethan and Suresh. Rest in peace to those guys, man. Awful to go like that, but in the past couple of videos we've talked about how death out here in Ukraine is slow typically, unless you're one of the lucky few who gets hit in the head or something like that. You're just completely direct hit from an artillery shell and you're eviscerated. It's typically long and relatively grueling, and this was pretty much a perfect example of that. These guys both got shot once each. One in the chest, one in the hip. Both awful places to get shot. Something about the reason I said the hip is one of the worst places to get shot is because you can bleed almost your entire volume worth of blood into your pelvic bowl. So you can bleed out internally without any sign of external bleeding. And somebody who's not trained as a medic would be none the wiser. They would have no idea. They'd be like, this guy is is expressing all the signs of a massive bleed, but he's not bleeding anywhere. What the fuck is happening, right? And if you don't know that, it's because, you know, and I'm saying this could have been what happened with our guy here. Who knows? That's so hard to tell. And then getting shot in the chest. A lot of you guys know Tex was somebody I was with in the International Legion. He was actually my platoon commander. He was shot 3 times in the chest. Well, he was shot more than that, but he had steel plates, and the steel plates stopped multiple rounds, but 3 rounds still got into his body and were able to bounce around his insides. The fact that he's alive is insane, but they were able to, and again, this is my opinion, right? But the only reason he was alive is because his guys were able to move him so quickly off the X where he went down and get him back into friendly lines so fast that more skilled medical professionals were able to provide higher level of interventions, right? A shot to the hip and a shot to the chest alone are not always, they're not mortal wounds, but if left untreated, they absolutely will be. So, God, it sucks, man. That sucks. It's so tough to watch. And it's a shame because this is so the reality of the conflict here, man. This is one perspective of one operation with these 3 foreigners, right? But there's different operations all across this hundreds of kilometers of front line. There's multiple operations that have happened and are currently happening just like this one, right? Where somebody gets hit, they're stuck in a position. Man, I could tell you a lot of different stories about people I knew personally who have passed away because they had to wait until nightfall for an evac. And then, even after waiting 8, 12, 24 hours for an evac, it's still sketchy as shit. It's still extremely dangerous, and oftentimes more people end up getting wounded, if not killed. The whole situation is shit. But last thing I'll say, then I'll jump off because this is a long video. Hey, but a lot of you guys mentioned you wanted longer videos, so I've talked in the past about running into higher level of trained Russian soldiers, whether they be recon teams or some kind of a special force element. To me, this situation screamed either a well-trained marksman or sniper team or a recon team. The way that our first guy, we saw the first round impact by his leg, the second round direct impact on his hip, 2 rounds, second one hit. Ethan, first round hit, center mass straight to the chest. Those are not, there's no Ivan Conscriptovich that's hitting those shots. You know, you don't got one-armed Ivan Somaliing his AK over the trench and hitting those shots. You've got a well-trained shooter hitting those shots. So this is, and I bet they may know what kind of Russian element they were fighting. I don't know if we'll ever get to that, and maybe in part 2 they'll mention it, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were some recce team or a sniper element. Okay, guys, that was crazy. These guys are always putting out the craziest content, man. Chosen is definitely a legendary team out here in Ukraine. Say what you want about Ryan O'Leary, about any of the members of Chosen. I honestly don't give a fuck about the drama parts of any of it. These guys came out here as foreigners, put in work, and made a serious difference in this conflict. To me, that's all that matters. So shout out to these boys. Very good work, strong work, and rest in peace to Ethan and Siraj, man. Fucking terrible shit. Like, share, subscribe, jump in the Discord, link below. Also our application to Azov's International Battalion, link below. I love you guys. See you in the next video.